The lights in the cargo hold dimmed as Taiho finished his inspection rounds. The soft hum of the ship's engines filled the silence as he checked off the last item on his tablet. Everything seemed normal, just as it had been for the past 3 weeks of his journey. Being a human diplomatic envoy to the outer systems was mostly paperwork and long periods of travel. He was about to leave when he heard it. A small sound, like someone trying not to breathe too loudly. Taiho froze, his hand moving slowly to the small stun gun at his belt. "Computer, full lights," he commanded. The cargo hold brightened instantly, revealing rows of supply crates and diplomatic gifts for the Mock Empire officials he was scheduled to meet. There it was again, a tiny shuffle behind a large water recycler. "I know you're there," Taiho said firmly. "Come out now, and I won't need to use security measures." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a slender figure emerged from behind the machinery. Taiho's eyes widened. The being before him was definitely not human. Her skin was a beautiful silver-blue color that seemed to shimmer slightly under the lights. Her large eyes were completely black, without any visible whites, and her head was hairless with small ridges running along the sides. What caught his attention most, however, were the ugly marks around her wrists and neck. They looked like the kind of scarring that comes from wearing restraints for too long. The alien fell to her knees before him, her head bowed low. "Please," she whispered in surprisingly good standard, the common language of the galaxy. "Please do not turn me in. I will do anything." Taiho quickly holstered his stun gun and held up his hands in a non-threatening gesture. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. What's your name?" The alien looked up, confusion clear on her face. She had clearly expected a different reaction. "I am Nari. I am Yun from the third moon of Korra." "I'm Taiho Kim, human diplomatic envoy," he said gently. "How did you get on my ship?" Nari's hands trembled as she spoke. "I escaped during transport. The loading bay workers did not check the food delivery crates carefully. I have been hiding for 3 days now." "Transport to where?" Taiho asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. "To the mine farms on Hack 7, she said, her voice barely audible. "The Mock Empire enslaves my kind for our telepathic abilities. We can sense things before they happen, read surface thoughts. They use us like tools." Taiho frowned deeply. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, and they were still learning about the complex politics between the older species. The Mock Empire had been particularly welcoming to humans, offering trade deals and technology exchanges. No one had mentioned they practiced slavery. "How long were you a slave?" he asked. "Since birth," Nari said simply. "All Yun are property of the Empire. It has been this way for 9 generations." She shifted uncomfortably, then looked at him with desperate hope. "I can be useful to you. I can provide information about mock military bases, security codes, communications channels. I know much from reading the minds of my masters." Or, she hesitated, "I can serve you in other ways. I am trained to be pleasing." Taiho stepped forward, and Neri flinched, but all he did was offer his hand to help her stand. "You don't need to offer me anything," he said firmly. "Humans don't believe in slavery. We outlawed it centuries ago." Neri stared at his hand like it might be a trick. "You will not turn me in." "No," Taiho said, "but I need to understand what I'm getting into. The Mock will come looking for you, right?" Neri nodded slowly, finally taking his hand and rising to her feet. She was tall, nearly matching Taiho's height. "They track all Yun through implants," she explained, pointing to a small bump behind her ear. "I damaged mine during escape, but they will still search all ships heading out of their territory." Taiho thought for a moment. "I'm supposed to be heading to a diplomatic meeting with Mock officials in 2 days. I can change course, but they'll notice." "They already know," Nari said, her black eyes unfocused for a moment. "My telepathy can reach quite far. 3 Mock ships are changing course to intercept you. They know I am here." Taiho's eyebrows shot up. You can sense that. Yes, Nari said simply. I can help you avoid them, if you wish. I can feel their presence long before your sensors would detect them. Tai-Ho nodded decisively. Then we better get you some food and proper clothes. If you're going to help me navigate, you should be on the bridge. Nari looked stunned. You would allow me on your bridge, with control systems. If we're going to get away from the Mach, we need to work together, Tai-Ho said with a small smile. And I'm guessing your telepathy will be pretty useful. For the first time, Nari's lips curved into a cautious smile. Humans are, not what the Mach told us. What did they tell you? Tai-Ho asked, leading her toward the exit. That you were primitive, selfish, and easily controlled, Nari said. I think they were wrong. Well, Tai-Ho said, as the cargo bay door closed behind them, they're about to find out just how wrong they were. The main screen on the bridge flickered as Tai-Ho adjusted his uniform. He had been avoiding this call for 6 hours, but now 3 Mach ships were closing in. He couldn't run forever. Are you ready? He asked Nari, who stood nervously behind his captain's chair. She nodded, her silver-blue skin reflecting the soft lights of the control panels. They will try to trick you. The commander is already planning his words. Tai-Ho took a deep breath. Stay out of view of the camera. The screen lit up, revealing the face of a Mach commander. The alien's gray, leathery skin was decorated with rank markings, and 4 small eyes narrowed at Tai-Ho. Human diplomat, the commander said without greeting. I am Commander Kotu of the Mach Empire fleet. You have taken something that belongs to us. Tai-Ho kept his face neutral. Commander, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. I'm on a diplomatic mission to. Our tracking systems detected a young slave aboard your vessel. Kotu interrupted. Return our property immediately, and we may overlook this theft. Tai-Ho felt his jaw tighten. Commander, I have a passenger aboard who sought asylum. She is a person, not property. Kotu's expression didn't change, but his voice grew colder. Your species is new to galactic politics, human. You do not understand our ways. The young are bred for service. It is their purpose. No living being's purpose is to be enslaved, Tai-Ho replied. The commander leaned forward. This is not your concern. The Mach Empire has been generous with your young species. Technology, trade routes, protection. Would you risk all that for one runaway slave? Nari moved silently behind him, placing a small note on the console. Tai-Ho glanced down. Asterisk, he's stalling. 2 more ships approaching from behind asterisk. Commander, Tai-Ho said, straightening his shoulders. Humanity abolished slavery centuries ago. We consider it morally wrong to own another thinking being. I cannot in good conscience return someone to bondage. Kotu's face darkened. Then you leave us no choice. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be considered an act of war against the Mach Empire. I must inform you, Commander, Tai-Ho said firmly, that an attack on a diplomatic vessel is also an act of war. I represent Earth and the Human Alliance. Your small alliance means nothing, Kotu sneered. You have 10 minutes to power down your engines and prepare for boarding. The screen went black. Tai-Ho immediately turned to Nari. Can you sense where all their ships are? She closed her eyes, concentrating. 5 ships total, 3 ahead, 2 coming around from behind. They plan to trap us between them. Tai-Ho moved to the navigation console. Is there any way out? Nari placed her hands on either side of her head, her expression pained as she extended her telepathic senses. There is a small gap between the lid ship and the one on its left. Their captain is distracted, worried about a malfunction in their weapon systems. That's our chance, Tai-Ho said, programming a new course. Hold on. The ship lurched as he pushed the engines to maximum, aiming for the gap Nari had identified. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. They're firing warning shots, Nari said, gripping the back of his chair. Let's hope they stay warning shots, Tai-Ho muttered, focused on the navigation display. The ship shuddered as they passed dangerously close to a mock cruiser. For a moment, Tae-ho thought they might make it. Then alarms blared as their engine power suddenly dropped. "They've hit us with a traction beam," Neri said, fear evident in her voice. Tae-ho quickly opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is Diplomatic Envoy Tae-ho Kim. I am being illegally detained by Mock Empire forces for refusing to surrender a refugee seeking asylum. Please advise." The response was immediate. "Envoy Kim, hold your position. Reinforcements are being dispatched. The Human Alliance does not recognize slavery as legitimate under any circumstances. Your actions are supported by Earth Command." Relief washed over Tae-ho, but it was short-lived. The ship rocked violently as the traction beam pulled them toward the largest mock vessel. "They will board us within minutes," Neri said quietly. Tae-ho turned to face her. "I made you a promise. I won't let them take you." "Why?" Neri asked, her black eyes searching his face. "Why risk so much for someone you just met? Someone who isn't even human?" "Because it's right," Tae-ho said simply. "My people learned long ago that freedom isn't just for humans. It's for all thinking beings." The ship's computer announced. Docking procedure initiated. Tae-ho moved quickly to a small panel on the wall, revealing a hidden compartment with weapons. He took out a stun pistol and offered it to Neri. "I won't ask you to fight," he said, "but I want you to be able to defend yourself if needed." Neri looked at the weapon with wide eyes. "Slaves are never allowed to touch weapons." "You're not a slave anymore," Tae-ho reminded her. "Not on my ship. Not ever again." A loud clang echoed through the hull as the mock ship attached itself to their airlock. "They're coming," Neri whispered. Tae-ho nodded grimly. "Let them come. Humanity stands with the Yun. And I stand with you." The airlock hissed as the mock soldiers prepared to board. Tae-ho stood ready, stun pistol in hand, with Neri behind him. Then, just as the outer door began to open, the entire ship shook violently. "What was that?" Tae-ho asked, grabbing the wall for support. Neri's eyes widened. "Human ships, 3 of them, attacking the mock vessels." The communication system crackled to life. "Diplomatic Vessel Kim, this is Captain Ji-woo of the Earth Defense Force. We've got you covered. Prepare for emergency jump once we break the traction beam." Tae-ho grinned. "That was fast." "Your government values you highly," Neri observed. "They value what's right," Tae-ho corrected her. "Now let's get back to the bridge." They ran through the corridors as the ship rocked with nearby explosions. By the time they reached the bridge, the view screen showed the Earth ships engaging the mock vessels with precise attacks. "They're targeting only the weapons and engines," Neri said, watching the battle. "Not trying to destroy them." "That's our way," Tae-ho replied, sliding into the pilot's seat. "We fight when necessary, but we try to minimize casualties." A final blast severed the traction beam, and Tae-ho immediately fired the engines. The ship lurched forward, breaking free from the mock's grip. "We've got a clear path," he said, plotting a course. But not for long. Captain Ji-woo's voice came through again. "Envoy Kim, we'll hold them off. Get that refugee to safety." "Thank you, Captain," Tae-ho responded. "Be careful out there." As they accelerated away from the battle, Neri suddenly gasped and clutched her head. "What's wrong?" Tae-ho asked, alarmed. "More mock ships," she whispered, eyes closed in concentration. 6 of them, coming from the Vega sector. "They'll cut us off before we reach Human Alliance space." Tae-ho checked the sensors. "I don't see anything yet." "You won't for another 20 minutes. But they're there." Neri straightened up. "I can help you navigate around them." Tae-ho studied her for a moment. "How accurate is your telepathy at this distance?" "Very," she said simply. "It's why the mock value us so highly. I can sense their captain's thoughts, their planned movements." Tae-ho nodded slowly. "Then we'll work together. You tell me where they are. I'll plot a course to avoid them." For the next few hours, They fell into a rhythm. Nari would close her eyes, reaching out with her mind to track the mock pursuit ships. Tai-Ho would adjust their course based on her warnings, sometimes with only seconds to spare. They passed through an asteroid field that would have been impossible to navigate alone. Left, Nari would say. Now right. Slow down. There's a patrol ship ahead checking that large asteroid. Tai-Ho followed her directions without question, his hands moving quickly over the controls. Once, when they came dangerously close to a mock scout ship, they both held their breath as they drifted past with engines powered down. They didn't see us, Nari finally whispered. The captain is more concerned about his dinner than his sensors. Tai-Ho laughed softly. Your ability is amazing. It's just a tool, she said, looking down. That's all I've ever been to them. A tool. Not to me, Tai-Ho said firmly. To me, you're a partner. As they entered a quieter region of space, Tai-Ho set the ship to autopilot and turned to Nari. We should eat something. It's been hours. In the small galley, as they shared a simple meal, Nari suddenly looked up with tears in her eyes. I can feel them, she said. My people. Hundreds of minds calling out. Where? Tai-Ho asked gently. The mining facility on Hack 7. It's not far from here. She placed her spoon down carefully. There are so many of us there. Children, elders, all working until they die. Tai-Ho was quiet for a long moment. We're supposed to head to the nearest Human Alliance outpost. That would be the safest option for you. I understand, Nari said, her voice small. But Tai-Ho continued, I didn't become a diplomat to ignore suffering when I see it. Nari looked up, hope flickering across her face. What are you saying? I'm saying we might need to take a detour, Tai-Ho replied, pulling up a star chart on his tablet. If we're going to help your people, we'll need information about this mining facility. I know everything about it, Nari said quickly. The guard rotations, the security systems, everything. I was held there for 3 cycles before being transferred. That's good. Tai-Ho nodded, but we'll need more than just the 2 of us. Nari's eyes unfocused briefly. There's a Human Alliance ship about 6 hours from here. Military class, heavily armed. Tai-Ho raised his eyebrows. You can sense that far. When I focus, yes. She hesitated. It's why the Mock want me back so badly. I'm one of the strongest telepaths they've bred. Tai-Ho's expression hardened. Then they're never getting you back, and we're going to free as many of your people as we can. Why would humans risk their lives for us? Nari asked softly. Because no one helped us when we needed it most, Tai-Ho said, setting a course for the Human Alliance ship. We had to fight our own battles for freedom throughout our history. We promised ourselves we'd never stand by it while others suffered the same fate. As the ship hummed around them, Nari reached across the table and tentatively touched Tai-Ho's hand. Then we are truly allies, she said. Yes, Tai-Ho agreed, an alliance of necessity. For both our peoples. The small fleet of human ships hung in the darkness near Hack 7, their engines powered down to avoid detection. 5 vessels total, not a large force, but each one carried the best soldiers the Human Alliance could provide on short notice. Tai-Ho stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Defender, looking at the holographic display of the mining facility. It was massive, carved into the side of a mountain on the barren moon's surface. There are 3 main entry points, he explained to the gathered officers. Security is heaviest at the main gate, but the service entrance on the eastern side has fewer guards. Captain Sunmai, a stern woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for successful rescue missions, studied the display carefully. How many Yun are being held inside? 823, Nari answered immediately, including 64 children. The officers exchanged glances. They had all seen the scans of the facility, but none of their equipment had detected the exact number of prisoners. You can sense them all? Sunma asked. Nari nodded. Every mind. They know we're coming. I've been reaching out to them. The strongest telepaths among them are already preparing. Preparing how? Sun Mai asked, leaning forward with interest. The Mok use my people to coordinate their mining operations, Neri explained. But the Yun can also use their abilities to confuse and distract. When the time comes, they will create mental chaos for the guards. Taiho smiled. The Mok never considered their tools might turn against them. Sun Mi nodded, her decision made. We attack in 3 hours. Small teams at each entrance. Our goal is to free the prisoners with minimal casualties on all sides. She looked at each officer in turn. The Mok don't expect resistance. Their security is designed to keep slaves in, not fighters out. As the officers dispersed to prepare their teams, Taiho and Neri found a quiet corner of the ship. Are you sure you want to go down there? Taiho asked. You'd be safer here. Neri's face was set with determination. My people need to see me. To know freedom is possible. I must go. 3 hours later, Taiho found himself crouched behind a rocky outcrop near the Eastern Service entrance of the mining facility. He wore light body armor with the Human Alliance symbol on the shoulder. Beside him, Neri closed her eyes, her mind reaching out to coordinate with the captive Yun inside. They're ready, she whispered. The guards are about to change shifts. Captain Sun Mi's voice came through their earpieces. All teams in position. Begin operation on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. Taiho and his team moved forward silently. Just as they reached the entrance, alarms began blaring from the opposite side of the facility. Team Alpha drawing attention as planned. Sun Mi reported. Move quickly. The service entrance was guarded by only 2 Mok soldiers, who were looking in the direction of the alarms. Before they could turn around, Taiho's team had stunned them both. We're in, Taiho reported as they dragged the unconscious guards inside. Neri led the way through dark corridors, navigating with perfect confidence. The nearest holding area is 2 levels down, she said. 56 Yun are there, including 12 children. As they descended deeper into the facility, they began to hear shouts and the sound of running feet. The Mok guards were responding to the distraction at the main entrance, leaving many areas unguarded. When they reached the first holding area, Taiho was shocked by what he saw. The room was filled with thin, silver-blue figures, all wearing simple gray uniforms. Many had the same restraint scars as Neri. They looked up as the door opened, their black eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. We're here to free you, Taiho announced. We are humans from the Earth Alliance. For a moment, no one moved. Then, an older Yun stepped forward. The guards. Distracted, Neri said, stepping into view. Brothers and sisters, I am Neri. I escaped. I returned for you. A ripple of excitement passed through the room. The older Yun touched Neri's face gently, as if making sure she was real. You found help, he said simply. Yes, Neri replied. Humans do not believe in slavery. As Taiho's team began removing the prisoners' tracking devices, the facility rocked with a distant explosion. Team Beta has disabled the main power generator. Sun Mi's voice reported. All security systems should be down. Taiho turned to the freed Yun. Can you help us find the others? The older Yun nodded. We can do more than that. He closed his eyes, and several other Yun did the same. A moment later, panicked shouts echoed from down the corridor. What's happening? Taiho asked. Neri smiled. The guards are experiencing confusion. Images in their minds. Some see monsters. Others see walls where there are doorways. Your people are doing that? Taiho asked, impressed. Together, our minds are strong, she said simply. Over the next 2 hours, the pattern repeated throughout the facility. Human soldiers would secure an area, and freed Yun would use their telepathic abilities to confuse and disorient the Mok guards. Very little actual fighting was necessary. When they reached the central control room, Captain Sun Mi was already there, her uniform dusty, but her expression triumphant. "The facility is secured," she reported. "All Yun accounted for. Mock casualties minimal, mostly stunned, a few minor injuries." Outside, transport ships landed to evacuate the freed slaves. Taiho watched as families reunited, some seeing each other for the first time in years. "Where will they go?" Sunmei asked. "To Earth for now," Taiho replied. "Our government has offered sanctuary until they can establish their own colony." Neri stood among her people, helping the young and elderly board the transports. She looked up and met Taiho's eyes across the landing pad. In that moment, no telepathy was needed to understand what they had accomplished together. The liberation of HAC-7 was just the beginning. 1 year had passed since the liberation of HAC-7. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council sparkled with lights that reflected off the polished stone floors. Representatives from 200 species sat in rising tiers, their voices a soft murmur as they waited for the session to begin. Taiho adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform in a small side chamber. What had started as a simple rescue had turned into the biggest diplomatic event in recent galactic history. "Are you nervous?" he asked Neri, who stood beside him in flowing blue robes that matched her silver blue skin. She smiled, more confident than the scared refugee he had found in his cargo hold a year ago. "A little, but I have faced worse than talking to politicians." "True enough," Taiho laughed. The scars around her wrists were still visible, but Neri wore them proudly now. She had refused medical treatment to remove them, calling them reminders of what must never happen again. A soft chime indicated it was time. Together, they walked into the Great Hall. The noise died down as Neri took her place at the speaker's platform. Taiho sat in the section reserved for Earth representatives, honored members of the Galactic Council. Neri began, her voice clear and strong. "1 year ago, I was property. Today, I stand before you as the first ambassador of the Free Yun Collective." The hall remained silent, all eyes fixed on her. "For 9 generations, my people were bred and used for our telepathic abilities. We were not seen as people, but as tools. This ended when humanity refused to accept such treatment of thinking beings." Taiho noticed the mock representatives shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Their empire had suffered greatly after the events at HAC-7. The images of thousands of enslaved Yun, many just children, had shocked the galactic community when they were released. "The Yun people formally declare our alliance with the Human Alliance," Neri continued. "While ancient empires saw us as tools, humans saw us as equals. This simple difference has changed the future of this galaxy." From his seat, Taiho could see the human delegation nodding with pride. Earth had risked much by challenging the mock empire, but the gamble had paid off. 5 smaller species had already requested protection from human forces against slave traders. The balance of power was shifting. "We offer our telepathic abilities freely to our human allies," Neri said. Already, joined human Yun crews have explored regions of space previously too dangerous to chart. Together, we are stronger than either of us alone. Taiho remembered the first joint mission. Humans provided the ships and protection, while Yun telepaths guided them safely through hazardous regions. No one had ever seen such cooperation between species before. "The Mock Empire has requested to speak," announced the council leader, an ancient being of a species that had explored the stars when humans were still learning to make fire. The lead mock representative stood. "The Yun were legally obtained property under laws that have existed for thousands of years. Humans have no right to interfere with established traditions." Murmurs spread through the hall. Taiho tensed, but Neri remained calm. "Traditions change," she replied simply, "or they die. The Yun choose freedom. And we are not alone." As if on cue, the representatives from 6 other previously enslaved species stood in support. The mock representative sat down, defeated. After the session ended, Taiho met Neri in a quiet garden outside the council chambers. "You were amazing in there," he said. "I don't think I've ever seen the mock so uncomfortable." Neri smiled. "I felt their thoughts. They know their time of domination is ending. And what did you sense from the other council members? Tahoe asked. Curiosity, fear, hope. She looked up at the stars visible through the transparent dome. Many have lived under the shadow of old empires for too long. They see humans as unpredictable. Is that good or bad? Tahoe laughed. Both, Neri said, but mostly good. You don't follow the old rules. You make new ones. They walked together through the garden, past flowers from 100 worlds. So much had changed in a year. The Yun settlement on Earth was growing. Freed Yun were learning trades, arts, sciences, things they had been forbidden to study as slaves. The human captain who led the attack on Hack 7 is being honored tomorrow, Tahoe mentioned. Captain Sunmei is being promoted to admiral. She deserves it, Neri agreed. Without her fleet, we would have failed. They stopped at a small bridge over a stream. In the distance, ships from all over the galaxy arrived and departed from the council world. Did you ever imagine this? Tahoe asked. When you were hiding in my cargo hold, did you think we would end up changing the galaxy? Neri shook her head. I only hoped for freedom. I never dreamed of a new beginning for my entire species. Humanity needed this too, Tahoe admitted. We were lost among the stars, trying to find our place. Now we have one. Defenders of freedom, Neri said, looking at him with her deep black eyes. It suits us, Tahoe smiled. We've had plenty of practice. As the light of distant suns filtered through the dome above them, they stood together, not as rescuer and refugee, but as representatives of two peoples who had found strength in each other. The galaxy was changing, and this was just the beginning.